The wind at the military cemetery always seemed to whistle differently, sharp, cold, and honest. Admiral Elena Hart had stood in storms fiercer than this, commanded ships larger than small towns, and made decisions that had shaken nations. But nothing had ever felt as heavy as the silence that fell every time she walked toward her daughter Lily's grave. It had been 5 years. 5 years since the world stopped spinning the way it used to. 5 years since she buried the only person who ever called her mom. But that morning, as Elena approached the familiar white stone, something was different. Someone was already kneeling there, a tall man in worn coveralls. A janitor, judging by the uniform, was crouched in front of Lily's name. Beside him, holding tightly to his hand, was a small girl with dark curls, and eyes the exact same shade of ocean, blue as Lily's. Elena froze, the little girl blinked up at her, and for a moment the entire world tilted, her breath caught. Her knees weakened, those eyes belonged to the daughter she lost. Before she could speak, the man wiped at his face and tried, unsuccessfully, to look composed. "I'm sorry," he murmured, voice rough. "We'll move, we didn't mean to intrude." But Elena shook her head slowly. No, you're fine." Her gaze dropped to the child. "I've never seen her here before." The man hesitated. The little girl clutched his pant leg, and then he whispered something that changed everything. She wanted to meet the woman who saved her life. The lie that saved a life. His name was Daniel Pierce, a single father who cleaned buildings on base to support his daughter, Maddie. 5 years ago, the same year Lily died, Daniel's young wife had passed away giving birth. He'd been drowning financially, emotionally, completely. And that was when, unexpectedly, an anonymous donation arrived. Money for medical bills, money for housing, money that had kept Maddie alive. Money that had arrived the exact same week. Elena Hart publicly refused the Navy's survivor benefits after her daughter's fatal accident, instead asking that the funds be redirected toward a family in desperate need. Daniel swallowed hard as he told her, "That was you. I didn't know until I saw a news segment last month about your daughter, and then I recognized the name on this grave. Maddie insisted we come today. She calls you her angel." Elena felt the world tremble around her. She had spent 5 years believing Lily's death marked the end of her impact. But here, standing before her, was living proof of another story. The eyes of a second chance. Maddie stepped forward shyly and held out a small drawing crumpled from being clutched too tightly. It showed a stick figure girl with curly hair holding hands with a taller woman in a Navy uniform. Underneath it read, in shaky handwriting, "Thank you for giving my daddy hope." Elena's throat closed. She sank to her knees, level with the child, and brushed a trembling hand across the paper. "It wasn't me who saved you," she whispered, voice breaking. "It was Lily." Somewhere deep inside, a crack began to heal. The challenges they faced over the weeks that followed, their lives tangled unexpectedly. Elena, trying to devote herself to her career to avoid the pain, found herself drawn back into life outside the uniform, learning how to smile again, how to sit at a table where someone cared. Daniel, weighed down by guilt, exhaustion, and the fear of failing his daughter, struggled to accept help from someone who carried her own grief. Maddie, terrified her father would break under the weight he carried, clung to Elena as if sensing the missing piece in all their lives. They faced the burden of grief, each shaped differently but equally heavy. Daniel's fear of inadequacy, believing he couldn't offer Maddie enough. Elena's survivor's guilt, convinced she didn't deserve a second chance at family. Financial instability, which pushed Daniel toward dangerous night shifts. Elena's near-constant deployments, threatening to break the fragile bond forming between them. Every challenge tested them. Every challenge forced honesty, and every challenge shaped a new kind of family. The moment everything broke, the breaking point came on a cold December night when Daniel was hit by a drunk driver on his way home from work. Maddie had been staying with Alina, curled up on the Admiral's couch, watching old Disney movies. Alina received the call. Something inside her snapped. The same raw fear that once tore through her when she lost Lily. She rushed to the hospital, Maddie clinging to her side. And when Daniel regained consciousness, the first thing he saw was Alina holding Maddie in her arms, whispering that everything was going to be okay. He cried, not because of the pain, but because, for the first time since he became a father, he didn't feel alone. A new beginning built from loss recovery was slow, messy, emotional. But Alina was there every appointment, every late night scare, every meltdown from Maddie when she feared losing her second parent. When Daniel finally stood without crutches again, he told her something he had rehearsed 100 times. "I know Lily was your whole world," he said quietly. "But you've saved mine. You've given Maddie the kind of strength she never would have had with just me. I don't know how to repay something like that." Alina smiled softly, painfully, beautifully. "You don't repay it," she whispered. "You just keep living." The ending that wasn't an E&D. Exactly 1 year after their first meeting, the three of them stood together at Lily's grave. Maddie placed a drawing at the base of the stone. This time it showed 3 figures. A little girl with curly hair, a man with a gentle smile, and a woman in uniform holding their hands above them, in bright yellow crayon, was the sun. Maddie looked up. "Miss Alina, do you think Lily can see us?" Alina swallowed hard, but this time the tears were warm, not cold. "I think," she said softly, "she brought us together." Daniel reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. And for the first time in 5 years, the cemetery didn't feel like a place of endings. It felt like a place where one story ended so another could begin. Final message: sometimes life shatters so violently, we believe nothing beautiful can grow from the pieces. But grief doesn't end a story. Sometimes it opens the door to another one built on new connections, new hope, and new love. And sometimes, when the world feels unbearably dark, a child with familiar eyes reminds us that light returns in ways we never expect.